How is everybody doing? We are picking up where we left off with regards to international relations issues that are affecting South Africa and the United States and pretty much the globe. And I wanted to draw some lessons for South Africa to learn from those who were in South Africa's position in the past, but now are in a better position, much better position now. And those nations would be China and India. And I would say that South Africa, I find that South Africa's frustrations with the United States are pretty much, if you put aside the issues of the disagreements that South Africa has with the United States on the issue of Israel and Palestine, Iran, Russia, Ukraine, and other issues like Cuba and etc., is that South Africa is suffering from not knowing its place. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to put it that way. And it's very important to know your place in this world, not just when it comes to as a nation, but also personally when it comes to professionally speaking. And this is a lesson for me that it has taken me a very long time to learn. And I've made very serious mistakes that have affected my professional life because I've sometimes failed to know my place. But because of the failure to know my place, then those things affected my professional growth and development in certain instances. And what I mean by that is that think of it this way. Look at China where it is now. China being the foremost superpower in the world alongside the United States, even more powerful than Russia. But if you're looking at China in 2025 and comparing China 40 to 50 years ago, those are two different Chinas altogether. And the behavior also was different. And the behavior in relation to the superpowers of the time, which were the United States and Russia, the Soviet Union, and to a lesser extent the United Kingdom and France. And China bid its time knowing its place, not causing unnecessary conflict and getting into unnecessary drama with the superpowers, positioned itself to be in a place where they are right now without shooting itself on the foot, without taking actions that were self-defeating. And so sometimes pride might get in the way of your own progress, because sometimes you need to suck it up and abide things that you would ordinarily not abide them, and tolerate things that you wouldn't necessarily tolerate. And for South Africa, which has an economy of the size of Indiana, it is unthinkable that what does South African government think that they can actually go tit for tat with the United States. It's foolishness. It's madness. And when they say the economy of Indiana, the state of Indiana, I mean, it is so small. That's like number 19. If South Africa was a state in the United States, it will be the 19th largest economy in the United States, with the largest economy in the US obviously being California, number 2 being Texas, number 3 being New York, number 4 being Illinois, and number five being Pennsylvania, number 6 being Michigan, somewhere there. So and those are serious economies actually. Being like looking at like California and Texas, for instance, those are very serious economies. Like there's not a single country in Africa that has a bigger economy than actually. Because if you think about it, South Africa is the largest economy in Africa, depending on which year you are. all of these countries have a smaller economy than Indiana. Shit. That means if you're looking at it at that way comparatively, that's how small the South African economy is. $400 billion plus or minus $400 billion also Indiana, compared to a couple of trillions of dollars by Texas or California. South Africa is so small that it can't even afford to go to war with California or Texas or New York or Florida. It's after New York. Sorry, Florida. Yeah, so it's California, Texas, New York, and then Florida, and then I don't know. Yeah. So the point I'm making here is that you need to know your place, and using that same example with regards to China, first, China was a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council 50 years ago, but at the time, China was not using its veto power. Why do you think it was not using its veto power 50 years ago? The reason why was it because it didn't have the military strength, nor did it have the economic strength to back up the use of the veto, which might bring it in conflict with the US or the Soviet Union or the UK or France or all of them. And therefore, because of that, they had to, for a period of say 30 to 40 years, not use their veto power almost at all. And that is wisdom, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolute wisdom. Because at no stage in the past or even now has South Africa had the power of the United Nations veto power, United Nations Security Council veto power. But the way that South Africa is showing its ass to superpowers is just not lining up with the reality of the power dynamics. So I don't really care in terms of what your interests are with regards to whatever the issue is. You need to know as a person, as a nation, in terms of who you are, where you are, who you are talking to. And because these people fail to realize that, they are busy showing their ass in Washington. Saying things that are going to significantly hurt them. So it is very incumbent upon South African leadership to look at China and learn lessons from them. To look at India, who's also a major superpower right now, and learn lessons from them. India is a nuclear power. They have a strong military, so strong that it can actually be on parity with the Chinese military if they were to go to war. And they are serious rivals. But the way that India carries itself compared to how South Africa carries itself, if you also juxtapose the fact that the Indian economy is like number 5 or number 6 in the world, depending on which year you are doing the counting, it's things like that, man, that you need to look at and to say, man, who am I? Where am I? Who am I talking to? Because if the South African government continues in this fashion and does not learn wisdom, South Africans will suffer significantly. And so I really would like to put this forward and to say they need to consider following the approach that China has followed in the past 50 years. China has only started being more aggressive in its actions only in the last 15 years and more aggressive in it advancing its interest in the past 15 years. But also even in that way, the way that China maneuvers diplomatic circles is actually second to none. Because even when China is actually really fucking you, it's very difficult for you to pick it up that these folks are fucking me. Because of how good they are at playing this diplomatic game. South Africa needs to learn from them. They really need to learn from them. Yeah, so that's really for me the issue that has been on my mind with regards to this. and looking at South Africa harming itself in the global stage, looking at South Africa scoring on goals, doing things that are just unnecessary and not conducive to resetting of diplomatic relations between itself and the United States of America. And I would like to say, consider the path that others have walked who were in a similar situation like you, like China, like India. And why don't you try to follow that path? And look how far these two great civilizations are right now. That is both China and India. They are so influential and so powerful that they cannot be bullied by anyone. So, and it's one thing to say we can't be bullied, and it's another thing altogether to actually be in a position where you can't be bullied. So that's really what the South African lawmakers, South African decision makers, South African policy makers need to consider. Because if there is a path for success for South Africa, it requires South African leadership to be wise in terms of how they advance their interest in the global space, including sucking it up in certain instances and bidding your time and working on your competence and building your economy and building your military. These are the two most important things in the world, your economy and your military. Yeah, with that said, I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks about that in the comments below. Sure, till next time, folks.